Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Please take your seat.
Thank you, sir.
Sangi or Sangi? How do you pronounce your name?
Sangi.
Sangi. Sangi, you come from Uddam Singh Nagar,
Yes, sir.
Uttarakhand, and your optional subject is Political Science and International Relations. You have graduated from Govind Ballabh Pant University of Agriculture and Technology, Uttarakhand, and your stream was Mechanical Engineering. This is your second attempt
Yes, sir.
at the Civil Services examination, and your hobbies include gardening, reading books, both fiction and non-fiction.
Yes, sir.
So Sangi, let me start with your hobby. How did you develop this hobby of reading books, and what have you learned by developing this hobby?
So, I have reading books since my childhood as a part of school curriculum. But since in high school, we were introduced to the novel reading, and that is how I developed the interest in it. In college times, I used to read the fiction novels, but as I started preparing, my interest shifted to non-fiction as well. And I have found that the books make me inquisitive, and I am a curious person, so it is not possible to meet new people, but from books I get new ideas.
Okay. So have you read that book, Shoe Dog?
Sorry, sir.
Are you aware about this book?
No, sir. Sorry.
Can you tell me about a book that you have recently read and which falls into the non-fiction category?
So the one I read recently is The Difficulty of Being Good by Gurcharan Das.
Okay. What is that book about?
So the book is about the ethical dilemmas from Mahabharat. Yes, sir.
And how Gurcharan Das, he points out the viewpoint of Karna in that.
So the current dilemma was he was rejected as a child by his own mother, and his own. So he has a dilemma that whether to be a good son or whether to be a good friend. So he negated the caste system in the way that though being a Kshatriya, he took the initiative as a good friend and died as a loyal warrior in the war.
Do you consider Karna's action as ethical?
So as a friend, he was ethical, and he was told beforehand by many people that God, even in the in disguised form, would come for his own earrings and the kavach kundals, but he abide by his own principles, and that is so the courage of conviction in him as well as his integrity.
Now, since we are talking around the Mahabharata, tell me how Bhishma is responsible for the war. Apart from the attack on the dignity of Panchali, that episode, apart from that episode, how Bhishma is also responsible for the war.
So, Bhishma, the Gangaputra Bhishma can be held responsible for the war in the sense that when there was an incident in the Kurukshetra war, when Lord Krishna lifts the wheel of the chariot, and it was suggested by the Lord himself, because Lord Krishna beforehand took the oath that he will not lift any weapon in the war. By lifting the weapon in the form of a wheel, he was suggesting that even a god can break his oath. So he was only a human being, and so he has taken a oath that he will serve the kingdom. But when this kind of unethical things were perpetrating around the kingdom, he should have broken the oath and followed his kingship.
Okay. Uh, Uttarakhand has a history of natural disasters. Suppose you are the district magistrate. What preparations would you make at these three levels to prepare the community better for handling disasters? The three levels are financial, administrative, and people.
So can I take a moment?
Yes.
So financially, my action would be driven by the Disaster Management Act 2005. Since as a district magistrate, I will also be a head of district disaster authority. In the financial level, I can also better maintain the state disaster relief fund, as well as in the conversation and request the CM to create state disaster mitigation fund. Secondly, at the administrative level, I can connect as an engineer as well. I can utilize my own analytical abilities in creating disaster resilient infrastructure. And the third thing, that people are the first responder, so their capacity building has to be done so that the rescue mission as well as the mock drills are planned beforehand.
Okay, very good. Your optional subject is political science and international relations.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about some international issues.
Yes.
Okay. Now you must be aware that the situation in our neighborhood, I'm talking about Afghanistan, is still diabolical, and we have not attained any kind of political stability in that area for decades now. How India should change her rules of engagement with the Afghani government to ensure that a lasting peace is established between India and Afghanistan. Whatever Indian government is doing, do not mention that. I want from you some new initiatives that you can think of, that by which Indians can engage with the Afghanis so that a lasting peace is established between these two countries. Yes, go on.
So can I think? So Afghanistan has been the land of great games. So there are presence of multiple stakeholders there, and that is the reason for instability. As an Indian, I can suggest few solutions. Like the first one would be the education of the girls especially, because women have the part and are themselves the sufferers of this kind of instability, as well as they can be a very important stakeholder in the same. Secondly, the projects like economic activities, because it is said that where there is poverty, it leads to such kind of unfortunate happenings. So economic activities has to be diversified. In terms of like Afghanistan is also a part of Golden Crescent. So that is the reason for drug trafficking. If they can utilize their own mineral potential, gas fields, as well as it is also a very geostrategic reason in the Central Asia. So infrastructure can be developed. And that is how they can also live by, like Egypt has unleashed its potential in the kind of Suez Canal. So that kind of infrastructure can develop, and then they will be also a source of revenue for Afghanistan.
Should we allow the Afghanis to use our ports? And is that already in place?
Sorry, sir, I'm not aware whether it is already in place.
How Afghanistan imports, which is the port that they use to import? Is it a landlocked country?
Yes, sir.
Yes, go on.
So I'm not aware, sorry.
Okay. Suppose you are the district collector, and in your district, you suddenly find a new trend. And that trend is that people are leaving the formal education system because they feel that it is a wastage of time, because even after getting good education and degree, they are not getting the jobs. How would you respond to this situation?
So firstly, I will utilize the technology about understanding the depth of the problem. How many people are leaving?
Which technology?
So like data management, data science, and why they are leaving, and what kind of percentages of girls and boys are involved. Then I would look into the particular causes of concerns. If economic opportunity is the only reason, as a district collector, I can also utilize the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Kendras, as well as some kind of unskilled, skilled, as well as semi-skilled kind of economic opportunities like mega food parks, and such kind of activities can also be developed for the same. Thirdly, I would also try to build a positive program so that this kind of things that leaving the formal education system can also be bridged by a means of informal education, tele-education, as well as formal education should continue.
Sangi, who is your favorite political philosopher and why?
So I'm very much fascinated by Indian political philosopher, that is Chanakya.
Why?
So because first of all is an Indian, and secondly he kind of create a very positive image about the Indian political strategic culture, which is otherwise being dominated by the West.
Thank you, Sangi.
Sangi, what is the meaning of the name Sangi? It's a very unique name.
So the word Sangi has been derived from the word Sangi, which means a friend or a companion. However, it has a historical connotation. The second house of Japan, that is the upper house, is named Sangi.
Good. Your date of birth is 28th of February. Any idea what is this day celebrated in India as?
Yes, sir. It is celebrated as National Science Day.
And why so?
Sir, because of the discovery of Raman effect. It is unique in the sense that most of the days are celebrated on the birth anniversary, but it is on this date that the Raman effect was discovered.
Good. And which year was it?
Sorry, sir, I'm not aware.
And when did Dr. C.V. Raman get his Nobel Prize? Which year?
Sorry, sir, I'm not aware. I will look into it.
Who was the first Nobel Prize winner in India?
Sir, Rabindranath Tagore was the first winner.
And who's the only woman to win the Nobel Prize
From India?
from India?
So Mother Teresa.
Good. Is this your first interview, Sangi?
So it is my second attempt.
Second
And
interview.
I am also selected in the Pondicherry Civil Services.
Okay. Is that the reason why you have not opted for that?
Yes, sir.
But then why have you also not opted for the Indian Railway Protection Force, Armed Forces Headquarters Civil Services, as well as the DANEPS?
So Pondicherry Civil Services was my preference over these services last year as well.
Okay.
So when I got allocated to Pondicherry Civil Services, I aspire to be the part of the upper services that are there.
No, but Pondicherry Civil Services is the Group B post, whereas the Railway Protection Force is the Group A post.
Sir, I was not aware much about the services.
Okay. Sangi, you've taken PSIR as your optional, right?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me something about the impact of ICET?
Yes, sir. So it is an initiative on critical and emerging technologies that is recently National Security Advisor of USA and India have been working on. It will try to build up a bridge on artificial intelligence, as well as the data sciences, as well as the security and defense aspects.
Okay, talking in terms of defense, then what was so special about the 26th January parade?
Sorry, sir, I'm not aware what was special.
All the equipment that was put on display, what was it showcasing?
So it was showcasing the indigenous technologies and indigenous defense modern manufacturing.
Okay. Sangi, if I were to ask you 3 values that you possess that you think will make you a good civil servant, what would they be?
So the first one would be compassion. I have worked in national service scheme, and I have tried to inculcate the value of not me but you. Secondly, I believe that the communication skill are very much important because through communication we try to not only say what we feel but also understand. And listening is also a very important thing of communication. And the third thing would be curiosity. A civil servant must be able to learn and should always aspire a kind and develop a learning attitude.
Did you read the newspaper today?
Yes, sir.
What were the headlines? Can
So,
you name 3 headlines?
so the first one was on the issue between the government and the Supreme Court judges on the appointment. The second one was on Russian bank asking the RBI to give the introduction to the Indian economy for their financial transaction. And the third one was from Assam. That is, the government of Assam is working on the prohibition of Child Marriage Act and the protection of children from sexual offences Act.
What about the Adani issue?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
You've done your BTech. Now, after BTech, you want to join the civil services. How do you think a qualification like an engineering degree would help you in the performance of your duties as a civil servant?
So I believe that there might not be any direct application of mechanical engineering in the civil services, but the values that I got from mechanical engineering, like the analytical, the interdisciplinary, and the integration of various subjects, and thirdly, the very much application in industries, like there is a Kaizen of continuous improvement. There is a DIFTR that is doing it the first time right. So these kind of things are very much involved in policy making as well.
So, is Kaizen a part of your BTech degree also?
So that I learned in Hero Motocorp Limited.
You worked with Hero Autocorp?
Yes, sir.
I don't think you have mentioned that.
Yes, she has.
Okay, yes, graduate engineer. You're not currently, you haven't joined your Pondicherry Civil Services
So
assignment yet?
yes, sir, I am yet to join it.
Okay. You said NSS will help you in your, I mean, you have hinted that NSS is going to help you in your performance of your duties because you are compassionate, you said. Okay. Can you tell me who's considered to be the father of NSS?
So it was created on the recommendation of H.N. Kunjru committee, and that is I think he can be regarded as the father of NSS.
Was it the Kunjuru committee?
So as far as I am aware of.
Don't you think, do you think NSS should be made compulsory in these colleges?
So college students take part in various initiatives. I believe NSS is a very important platform for providing leadership as well as compassion, but it can only be one means. There can be other means as well, like college festivals, and we cannot restrict the choice of students as well.
Okay. You also have a fondness for gardening.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me what is the difference between gardening and kitchen gardening?
Yes, sir. So gardening is a holistic process, while kitchen gardening is a subset of gardening. Kitchen gardening involves with utilizing the kitchen waste and creating the and planting those kind of plants that are can be used in the kitchen, like fruits and vegetables, as well as herbs. While gardening includes ornamental plants as well.
Oh, then in that case, tell me what's the difference between gardening and planting?
Sorry, sir, not. I don't know.
Can you spell out 3 advantages that occur on account of gardening?
Sir, can I think for a
Please.
So the first quality is patience, because plants take their own time to develop their own capacity and bear fruits. The second thing is the crisis management. Maybe soil and water is right, maybe then also you cannot expect the good results. because there are many variables involved in it. And the third thing is the compassion for the plants as well, because that is also a fundamental duty.
So these are advantages of gardening, or are they the benefits that as an individual you draw? Advantages of gardening that would occur to an individual.
Yes, so the qualities like patience and the crisis management.
These are basically value. You're talking about values that would emanate from that.
So the benefits could be the tangibles like fruits and vegetables, as well as the aesthetic surroundings. And the intangible could be that though I am the only person who is doing it, but others in my family as well as neighborhood can also benefit from the same.
Anything else?
So I am able to think on that only.
Thank you very much, Sangi.
Thanks.
Sangi, you have taken political science and international relations as optional. In this context, I just wanted to ask you one thing. Highlight briefly the importance of India's claim for a permanent seat in the UN Security Council.
So India is very much capable of getting a permanent seat at United Nations Security Council, because India is the 5th largest economy, largest democratic country, as well as the nuclear state with the responsible credentials. And lastly, we represent 1/6 of the world's population. Our own absence from the United Nations Security Council represents that howsoever the dire is the democratic deficit at the council.
These are the necessary and sufficient conditions, what you have mentioned just now.
So these are necessary, but not only sufficient. We also need to develop our own economic power more.
Which highlight briefly the role of UN framework. Have you heard of UN framework convention on climate change?
Yes.
And how it will address the global environmental crisis? Briefly, in 2-3 sentences.
So United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change was a result of 1992 conference at Rio. It leads to the formation of three on the climate change convention to combat desertification. So these are built the negotiation, because climate change effect can be felt in one country, but it is not possible for any single country to respond to the challenges. So it leads to the conference of parties every year, so that common but differentiated responsibilities as well as the funds that are needed for adaptation as well mitigation can be created.
Yeah, you have graduated in mechanical engineering. I just wanted to know from you, first law of thermodynamics is related to which principle, very common principle in physics?
So it is the energy conservation.
Good. Second law of thermodynamics is?
So second law of thermodynamics is related to entropy.
Good, thanks.
Sangi, just a couple of questions. After that, we will wrap up this interaction. Sangi, what do you think? What are the two biggest challenges that women in India face today? And if you get an opportunity, how would you approach the entire issue and resolve these challenges?
So the two, there are multiple issues, but if I have to mention only two, then the first one is the political representation, and the second one would be the mobility of the women. It has been found that women spend a lot more than men in terms of mobility, because they are involved in safe and secure work movement, and that is what decreases their economic opportunities.
Good. Suppose you have to add one more line to this slogan. What would be that line, or what would be that word? Ek Bharat, Shresht Bharat. If I have to take this slogan forward, what will you add to this?
Can I think? So, Ek Bharat, Shresht Bharat, Anekta mein Ek Bharat.
Very good. Thank you very much, Sangi. Your interview is over. We will reconnect with you in some time for your feedback.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Please take your seat. Sangi, before I start the feedback, let us understand here why UPSC holds the personality test. Well, you are already selected, so you know that what UPSC is actually looking for. UPSC looks for what kind of a person you are. It means what kind of values you hold. Do you respect the constitution? Can you solve problems? Are you a good decision maker, especially under stress kind of situation? Do you suffer from any kind of prejudice, bias, stereotypical thought or not? What is your approach towards life? What kind of an outlook you have? How much you have compassion for the vulnerable sections? In short, once you are trained, will you become an asset or a liability upon the administration? And will you further the cause of social justice, or you will become an impediment in the path of delivery of social justice? Got it, dear? So that is the objective of holding the personality test. It is not to check the appropriateness of your answer, because it's not a test of your knowledge. Rather, the idea is to see the motivation behind your answers, the approach, the viewpoint, the perspective under which you are creating your answers. Skills and qualities like whether you can engage with multiple stakeholders. Are you a good listener? Do you have ability to comprehend things? Do you have a comprehensive approach? Do you think from all angles? Can you think from all perspectives? That is what is the idea. Got it, dear? So, if I start from the very beginning, see, the entry has to be a little bit confident, son. I felt that the entry was a little bit on the lower side. Once you started talking, we can understand that yes, you have mettle and merit. But as you entered, your entry looked very circumspect and in the neighborhood of anxiety and slight nervousness. So present yourself fully there, and with a smile on your face, ask confidently. Then come and then wait for the permission. Then once you're given the permission, then occupy your seat. There are so many good points about you, Sangi. First, you are a very good listener, and your answers were very appropriate. They were neither too long nor too short, just the appropriate length. You articulate your points very well, you organize your thoughts very well, and you almost understood the real meat of most of the questions. So you did not went haywire here and there. Rather, you focused on the actual thing that is being desired at that point. Got it, dear?
Yes, sir.
Some of the answers were absolutely brilliant. See, there would be three kinds of questions, Sangi. First would be questions that would emanate from your DAF. Most of the questions would be of that nature, right? Second, current affairs related question to check your awareness. And the third is decision-making kind of questions, which would be situation-based, like making you a collector, commissioner, or a foreign delegate, or something like that. Or questions where some value would be checked, like if this is the situation, what will you do, and what is the motivation? To check that how do you uphold values like justice, compassion, integrity, especially administrative integrity, professional integrity, etc. Eye contact, dear, is something which I would expect that you better that thing.
Yes.
Because see, what is the right way of having eye contact? If suppose sir is asking you a question, look towards him. Do not lose your focus from him. This shows that you have good concentration. You understand that? And unless you listen to the problem statement properly, how can you come up with a solution? Once his question is over, then wait for 1-2 seconds, because there could be a supplementary, a complementary, or an explanation, or an associated question, anything. Do you understand that? Once that is over, then you take 1 or 2 seconds to think. If you require a time greater than that, ask for the permission. When a new information is supplied, thank the board. That shows that you have humility, and only humble people can be trained. Understand that? You did that on some of the occasions, but I would say every time you do that, right? Every time a new information is supplied to you, you say that. And when you are not aware about something, say I am not aware about it, sir.
Yes.
But at the same time also say, sir, I'll definitely go back and read about it. That shows that you have a learning attitude. So that is how eye contact should be maintained during the time of question. Once you are answering, then you should primarily look towards the person who has asked you the question. But meanwhile, you must also look at other members of the board. so that they do not feel neglected. Say, if I have to quantify it roughly, 70 to 75% to the person who has asked you the question, because he or she deserves the most of the time, and the rest 20-25% try to distribute it among the different members. Otherwise they would feel neglected, and you can understand that if they feel neglected, they will give you lesser marks. Once you occupy the seat, you cannot move thereafter. So take time in occupying the seat. During the interview, you were sitting in such a way as if it was visible that you are moving towards one side of the seat. And you can understand that by looking at the distance between both of your arms and the armrests. More or less equidistant. If that is the case, then you are at the center of the seat. So it looks more appropriate, because this is a formal environment, dear. So we must go by the rules of formal behavior. Right? The energy levels, they are. Do you speak in this way even in your day-to-day life?
So, like what?
With at this pitch and decibel levels?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but try to have some sort of voice modulation.
Okay, sir.
Otherwise, the speech becomes very monotonous, and such monotony may create boredom. And if people lose interest in what you are saying, then obviously you can understand they would just end up giving you average marks. So try to work on that area. But the best thing about you, Sangi, is that you are very honest, you are very decent, you are very polite, and ऐसा लगता है आपको देखकर that you can be a great asset for the administration. So the chances of your selection are extremely high, but do not allow complacency to creep in.
Yes.
That is my feedback. Sir will add few points to that. Then you can ask me your questions. Then I'll disclose your score.
Yes.
Sangi, apart from whatever has been said, right, I ditto each one of those points. But in addition, there are a few points which I thought, see, when you came inside, you stood by the chair, all right. But then you know what you did? You wished everybody individually. Don't do that. Right? If there are 10 people, how many people were there in the last interview when you appeared?
5.
Did you wish everybody 5 times?
No.
Then? If there are 10 people, then remember that. So, wish collectively. If there is one lady and 4 gents, then how would you wish?
So I will first wish the chairman, and then the lady.
First wish the lady, good morning or good afternoon, madam, and then good morning or good afternoon, sirs. No, ma'am, please. Okay? Don't wish individually. Now, while answering the questions, I saw you looking around and looking down. He pointed out about the eye contact. Eye contact, you should be looking at the person who's asked you the question, and while answering, primarily at the person, but not down and around. That shows lack of confidence. Right? So either if I have asked you a question, you should be primarily looking at me. But you cannot neglect the other people. You have to look at the other members also. Right? So maybe 70 to 75% here, and the rest divided amongst the other panelists. If somebody is in the center, maybe you're looking at the person who's in the center. The moment you get an opportunity, you look at the people on one side, again come back. Thereafter, again you move to the other side and again come back. So you have given attention to everybody, right? And the best time to actually move your what I can't call it eyesight. I can just say moving your glance towards other people when somebody is writing. Like I asked you a question, obviously I will be taking some notes also in between. The moment I am writing something, that's the time you can take a steal with the other people. Right? That's the best time. Remember that. When you were taking time to think, you asked for time, but you always said, can I think? Don't say, can I think? Always say, can I take a few moments to think?
Yes,
Right?
sir.
So that is a much better way of saying, or can I take a few moments to recollect my thoughts, to collect my thoughts. Don't say, can I think? Even while you're thinking, do not look down or around. Right? At that period of time, what are you supposed to be doing? Like if I have asked you a question, you say, can I take a few seconds? At that time, you're looking at the person who's asked you the question, but you're just lowering your gaze. You're not looking at the person straight. You're just looking down. That's all. Something like, if I've asked you a question, you're not looking at me, but maybe you're looking at the camera or maybe somewhere down below the table. That's all. Your face remains where it is. Just your gaze comes down, that's all. Nothing else. Remember that.
Yes, sir.
And you were very serious all through, I don't know why. That showed lack of confidence actually, Don't be so serious. You've already cleared, you're already in it. So that smile should be actually multiplied. You should be very happy about it. So be confident. Don't put up that serious image. And it was not the Kunjuru committee which
Yes, sir. Yeah, I apologize for the same. Yes.
Kunjuru committee was involved with.
So it was in, sorry sir, I don't know, but Kothari committee was involved with the NSS.
Who is the founding father? I had asked you the question.
Yes, sir.
Founding father is V.K.R.V. Rao.
Thank you, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir. I was going to apologize for that.
No. So Kunjuru committee was with NCC.
Yes, sir.
Formation of NCC was with Kunjuru committee. And finally, you said values, compassion, communication skills and curiosity. Now, communication skills and curiosity will not be considered values as such, will they be?
No, sir. Values, it won't.
So, but you said these three. So, think of some better values which are in sync with what you are trying to pose or what you're trying to say. Right?
Yes.
So, that requires a little bit of working out. Otherwise, excellent.
Sangi, as sir pointed out, if there is a question on values, try to pick values which are in tune with the demands of administration. Say, for example, the fundamental values of civil services, integrity, compassion, dedication to public service, these kind of values.
Yes, sir.
Communication skills is more of a skill set. Communication skills is one type of skill. We're not talking about your aptitude, ability, or skills. We're talking about your values. Got it, dear? Yes. Now you can ask your questions if there are any.
So I was going to ask about the first thing was eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
So that has been answered because, and how to modulate my voice.
See, there are some key areas in your answer. Like say, for example, if suppose there is a simple question that what do you think is the biggest problem that women are facing in India today? So the question is very specific, biggest problem, not what are the problems. So there we are looking for only one problem. Now any problem could be biggest because this is a subjective interpretation of the question. Do you understand that?
Yes.
So when you are highlighting, suppose I feel that it is dowry. Suppose that's the biggest problem that Indian women face. Even educated women had to give money. Do you understand that? So I would focus on that point. And when I do that, that should be there on my face, that I actually mean that. Do you get that?
Yes, sir.
So when I emphasize on the word dowry with modulation of voice, obviously, because that should come from within. So you must feel what you are trying to say. Otherwise, you sound very mechanical.
Yes, sir.
And it seems as if we are talking to some robot. I hope you are getting what
Yes,
I'm trying
sir.
to say there.
And so, can I use my hands while speaking?
Yes, you can, but keep this a point that there should not be excessive hand movement. A limited movement of hand is desirable in fact, because if you sit like this throughout the course of the interaction, again, it creates a very mechanical impression. So you can slightly move your hands. In between, you can change your hand position, lock your fingers like this. But do not move your hands in a very excessive manner. That puts you in a dominating position, as if you're lecturing. So I will tell you one ground rule. Do not allow your hands to come above the armrests. Got it?
Yes, sir. And so I nod a lot, like
Mm.
I this
Mm.
do this.
Mm.
Yes, yes. So is it desirable or should I stop? Because it is
A little bit
natural.
of nodding is obviously, sometimes we nod. Like when you say, "Sir, can I have few moments to think about it?" Generally, we nod. Say yes, of course. But a lot of nodding every time, it creates an impression as if you're engulfing the words and then you're processing them in your head. Right? So slight movement of the eye would be sufficient, rather than an excessive movement of the head. Got it, dear?
Yes, sir.
Anything
And
else?
so the other is a general doubt, like what is central in the in the All India services?
Hmm.
Why is it called an All India?
Hmm.
So my answer is that because these are recruited by the center and then they are allocated to the states,
Hmm.
and thus they can be posted in the states as well as center, and that is how it is All India services.
See, there are two angles to this. What you have said is the technical aspect of it. Now, there is a philosophical aspect as well, administrative philosophy. Why the All India services were created? See, the All India services, the Office of Governor, they all have been created with one objective in mind, and that is to protect the integrity of the nation and unity of the nation. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
And All India services, though they're recruited by the center, they may also serve under various state governments. When you get state cadres, they can also serve under central government in various ministries, departments, etc. But these All India services have been created with an objective in mind, and that objective is to protect the unity and integrity of the nation. You understand that?
Yes.
And that's why it is a central objective of the entire administrative setup, because Indian constitution has created a state where we have a strong center. Why? Because the fissiparous forces that led to the lamentable partition of the country have not completely evaporated. We still have internal security challenges, and say Indian police services play a vital role along with the defense forces to curb all these kind of activities.
Yes.
Right there?
Yes. Thank you.
Anything else?
No, so that is all.
Okay. So as far as today's performance was concerned, Sangi, we have awarded you 185, but we feel that you should cross 200 with slight bit of more energy and enthusiasm. Definitely, you will fill the room with a positive energy, and such cheerfulness will help you score that extra 15, 25 or 20, 25 marks, right?
Yes.
What was your score last time?
So last time it was 162.
So now obviously you have got selected, so there is a kind of confidence which we can also notice. So from 162 to 185 means a 23 mark improvement. If you work on the areas that we have highlighted, then definitely there would be further improvement. Anything beyond 190, obviously you can understand that the pathway to Indian Administrative Services is more pronounced.
Yes, sir.
Got it? Thank you very much, dear.
Thank you, sir.